I am Adam Weil, partner at White Rabbit Group. Welcome to the Pixel Perfect podcast, where we share knowledge, experiences, and motivations from creatives and entrepreneurs. I'm excited to talk with Ivan Fernandes today. Ivan works directly with independent agencies and marketing consultancies as an advisor. So providing strategic guidance through one-on-one sessions with founders to really help them build 24 to 36 month growth or exit strategies, and really everything needed to maximize growth in that process. So positioning, operational optimization, and this includes capital too. So, raising funds, planning for exits, setting a proper price, connecting with the right buyers. And Ivan has a massive network to support all this. Over the past 20 years, he's worked in the creative industry, ranging from large holding companies like WPP and subsidiaries like VML, but also smaller independents as well. So wide range, wealth of knowledge. If you're an agency founder thinking about what's next or what to prepare for in terms of growth or funding or an exit, you'll definitely want to tune in. So Ivan, thanks for coming on, man. Excited to talk.
Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward for our chat.
You bet, man. You bet. So I got a list of questions here I want to pick your brain on. And I just want to start off with like industry shifts. I love the content that you put out on LinkedIn and just all the content that you share for free. And I just want to get a little bit more into the weeds on some of that. So my first question is, you've spent more than 2 decades working across, independent agencies and holding companies, private equity. What major shifts do you think agency leaders need to pay closer attention to right now? And by the way, for the listeners, December 1st, 2025.
Yeah, I think basically understanding the AI, I think AI is transforming agency well. I think transforming the way we see the world, the way we plan, the way we strategize, the way we position into this new world that is coming. I think the interesting thing about it, and I think I speak this a lot as well, is the key thing is not to know what to do, is basically paying attention to the signals. I think the huge amounts of people that are not paying enough attention to the signals. We, specifically in the marketing industry, agency land, we actually focus too much on ourselves. And we don't pay attention to what goes outside our peripheral vision. And I think, and that's one of the big problems. I think we just there's two camps right now in terms of, to your question, there are two camps. There's camps of people that they're just waiting to see where this is going to land, where you're going to take us. And there's a few other people that basically are more energetic in doing things and trying to transform. The question is basically to have a focus and really figure out that there needs to be some level of action. I think all agencies, every single side needs to basically have a plan or have enough people to basically to ask the right questions. It's not getting yes people in the room all the time. It's basically someone that helps you to think outside the box and to help you to challenge the perception. And I think we are seeing the changes around us from the AI point of view, where everybody's trying to change into for us to become more efficient. But at the same time, one of the things I'm saying is actually we are failing as industry, as people, of creating things that basically will live in this new world. Actually, clear examples were going on with OpenAI. OpenAI is actually facing that challenge.
Yeah.
Where, yes, they have a great tool, a great platform, a great language model, but it's not enough being built around it to make that system work. There's only a small amount of people actually paying for the services. As a result, they actually suffer in the terms of they're not making losses. Because I think in a way we are sort of not being brave enough to basically think outside the box. And things from the agency point of view, I think one thing to be able to do is to be more aware and to be asking questions. And the questions that if I was an agency leader or marketing leader, I should be thinking about, okay, great. If I could start again tomorrow, would I start the same agency? Would I basically build the same thing? And probably the answer, most people will say no. There will be a few people who say yes, But most people basically say no because they realize that basically what they built today is not fit for tomorrow. Uh, and the problem that you have on the back of that is how you change. Changing is difficult. And accepting that sometimes we need to evolve is very difficult for a lot of people. And as an industry, I think this is going to be our problem because we actually not adapting, not changing, not paying attention to the signals, and we're not ready for that change. And I think that's for leaders, if you're listening, I think you just have a step back, figure out actually what should be my game plan for 2026. What should I do? How should I position myself? Think about like I'm from UK, but you guys are based in US. Think about NFL. What are your tactics? What's your rule book? What's your playbook for the? And I think it's just
Mm.
is interesting. And I think part of it is it's a scary world for me. I feel that it's very scary because right now the play is just about is basically how AI can help us to be more productive versus how help us to drive value creation for the future, create the new business of the future.
Right.
And I think as leaders, we just need to be more aware and basically start asking questions, not basically don't surround yourself by yes people. And that's what I try to say most of the time on my posts is basically most of it is creating a space where people have opinions and opinions. Sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't agree, but at least starts a conversation. And I think this is what you need to be able to do as leaders is start conversations that sometimes they need to have. We always have those conversations. How we make money? Are we charging the right things? So that's
Right.
sort of
Yes.
my
And sometimes I think as leaders, I mean, as a leader myself, it's hard
yeah.
to ask those questions, to be
Yeah.
willing to go in there. But it sounds like what you're saying is you have to be willing to go there, especially right now.
Yeah, man. I was having a conversation with a CEO because I advise lots of CEOs from different markets and different regions, different sizes of agencies. Some people have thousands of employees, some have got 10 employees. And I was just talking to them. It's just one thing that I was saying, you don't realize who you're pitching with. I think this is another big question. Most agencies today don't realize. This is basically feel that they're pitching like a game of equals, where in this situation, let's say the market itself a few years back was not so fragmented. Right now, you're pitching for the same budget across 5 or 6 different players. You're pitching against tech players. Facebook, Metas, and Google's are trying to get your money.
Yeah.
Now Amazon is jumping into the space. Then you're pitching against consulting, Accentures, Deloitte, and so on. Then you're pitching against, if you're betting the size, you're pitching against holdcos, or pitching now against collectives like worldwide partners, or pitching against with private equity backed. And the interesting thing about it is going back to my playbook earlier on, all of those different, depending who you're competing with, they need different plays because they're playing different games. And they're offering different things. And one of the key things that, for example, like holding companies, I'm sure if you're aware of this, some of them actually are playing the media game. So they can actually go and offer anything else for free, creative, technology, influencer for free, in
Hmm.
exchange just for the media. Whereas when you go to private equity backed, they're actually more aggressive. They are basically the way they pitch is very aggressive. Collectives is driving more collaboration. So consulting is coming more, okay, is not just this piece is not as important for us, is to drive transformation, bigger
Right.
systems, and so on. So is the different players require different strategies.
Right. Right. Yeah. You've kind of talked a little bit about like the orchestration kind of
Yes,
model. And you've said the winners won't be the ones who own everything, but the ones who
yes.
connect everything. So I guess my question is, what's the simplest way for one of the smaller agencies to position themselves as one of those orchestrators without maybe overpromising?
Yeah, I think the key thing about it is just uh, my point that I sort of mention all the time is it's not about thinking about investing, try to build something. I think it's a time of building something now is just sort of gone. Is a way of partnering with the right people, making sure, but at the same time, you need to have awareness of where do you want to go, what you want to offer, and basically finding companies that are out there that basically complement your services or think the same way as you do, but they are strong in other areas. For example, if you are a creative agency but you want to do automation, don't basically try to build it yourself. Find someone that's really good at creative automation, build workflows. So if you're someone that basically in influencer space, but you gain a big roster of clients that basically into sports or they're looking marketplace, they partner with someone with in the sports space. They have deep influence. So
Yep.
the key about it is just you understanding where do you want to be, understand which journey you want to take, and who do you want to come along with. Doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have a playbook that will be 20, 30, 40 different agencies. You're just finding the right partners. You can start with just one or two. Figure out
Right.
people that you trust. And I think the way I see it is that it's the value. If you build, like it's what I'm saying, is building like a mini collective slowly. Because you can say, okay, I'm good at this. Those guys are good at that. These guys are good at media. Maybe we can find a way that we can help each other. Basically, they can focus, they continue to develop their capabilities around media. I'll find someone that is good at digital out of home. I can find someone who's good at, for example, analytics. I can find
Right.
someone who's really good at research.
Yeah.
And together, if they, because they're experts on their area, I'm expert in my area. If we
Yep.
come together and build a proposition to address a client need, is more valuable because basically most clients today, from the conversation I'm having with loads of different procurement teams and seeing CMOs, is what they are valuing is they love expertise, they love deep expertise. But at the
Right.
same time, they they're afraid of dealing with agencies that they're not big enough or sophisticated enough to cope. Because this is the other challenge. This is the bigger challenge. What you're having right now is, and it's both sides. It's from the brand level, and from the agency level. Sometimes brands want to work with experts, but what makes them experts because they are small, they're agile, they work in a different way, they have different operating models, they have different cultures, and so on. But at the same time, they're asking them, "Oh, I want you to be bigger. I want you to be everywhere. I want you to be in different markets. I want you to have these capabilities." And sometimes those agencies are changing in order to accommodate that. But by changing that, they're adding costs. They're adding huge layers of complexity, and they actually start to lose their identity that
Yeah.
start to make them very, very special. And I think that's the kind of balance that probably orchestration plays in the sense that like, you don't need to be, for example, today, you don't need to be 1,000 people type of business. What you need is be better connected, better basically build a system where it's agile enough and basically helps to master the best of each one of us. And I think creating that kind of space is not easy. I'm not saying that basically is because people are gonna have we're individuals, we have needs, and at the same time we have conflicts because everybody wants to get a, a bigger piece of the pie. Everybody gonna start fighting. I want to be the one leading. I'm the one to manage the relationship. I'm the one basically. So it needs to be some level of collaboration. The orchestration itself is something that I'm hearing from clients that basically they want more. Uh,
Right.
and I had a conversation quite recently with a global procurement team, and basically they were saying we just signed a global deal with a holdco, but we realized that that's not enough for us. We want more services. We want a collaboration of expertise that basically takes us and pushes because they realize if they go to a holdco, they are good at one thing, but they're not good at bringing that kind of deep level expertise. And what they need is potentially 3 levels. One, pushing a global strategy, potentially support regionally and sometimes locally. Sometimes they have loads of different brands, they have different leadership styles. They require a more in line, more local type of approach. So
Mm.
orchestration is something that is something not new because it's something that I've been working on for a few clients. I ran loads of workshops 7, 8 years ago with clients actually, okay, I don't really like the model. Can I create my own? pick my own agencies. And I think probably most brands actually have been doing this, very quietly. Because I know a friend of mine was a CMO, it's basically 10 years ago, and he was saying the same thing. I have a whole co, but
Hmm.
I'm working with specialists. And sometimes in the past, tended to be very, because they didn't want to ruin the relationships. They're actually doing in markets that basically whole code didn't have enough visibility, so they then very hidden. But now, actually, there's more open now. There's more of them actually coming in and say, actually, we want different points of view, different expertise. We want to be challenged. And I think this is something that orchestration, I think probably in the long run, could address something that is happening in the market now that is, it's not good for anybody. That is the current pitching of work. So
Right.
you have huge amounts of people pitching. And sometimes like they stay with an agent for 2 years and they say, okay, right, we need something new. Instead of having that, you actually get the best of that. And basically, okay, right, you just have different players coming in, joining, but you have some level of consistency. I
Right.
just feel orchestration potentially is the future, and that we're seeing this across other industries. We're seeing this across the AI space now. Actually, the AI space is a clear representation of how everybody's orchestrating, working together in order to achieve. Because if you look at the case of Nvidia, one of the most valuable companies in the world, they don't manufacture the chips. They buy the chips and they just only design them. So they work with partners in order to
Mhm.
deliver pieces. So if you want to look in case of AI, everybody know basically wants to go there, but none of them actually owning them. You have the case of now the Google that is with the TPUs. They're not going
Yeah.
to manufacture themselves. They're going to
Right.
find partners that each one
Yeah.
delivering the best things to support each other. So it's interesting. If they are doing it, why not in market? That's
Right.
my question.
Yeah. Makes total sense. I mean, and it's never been easier, I feel like, to get those
Yeah.
partners. You know,
Yeah.
10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was a little bit harder. You had to rely strictly within your network. But now you have like WPI or the
Yeah.
Bureau, you have LinkedIn, obviously. And, like something we've done is built out like a referral database, where you can have a whole roster of agencies that you can call upon depending on what's needed. So just to your point, it seems like it's never been easier to do that. Um, and yeah, it seems like it's so difficult to build that within now versus to just partner. It just seems like
Yeah.
it makes sense.
I think it goes back to my post as well. I think people are actually, oh yeah, you write it on LinkedIn and so on, but most of the things I write is people. We have these conversations. We know these things, so
Yeah,
we just don't articulate them. Like to
yeah,
the
yeah,
your
yeah,
point, it's like we already have it, but we just didn't have a name to it. It was just
yeah.
basically we're just doing it. But I think is there's huge amounts of conversations and frameworks that we know that they work. It's just basically we didn't have the time to say, okay, should we do this more informally? Should we
Right,
create like this list of partners? Like you said, you have a list of agencies. What about creating a list of partners that of things you don't offer today? For example,
right.
their deep AI expertise, or for example, could be something in mobile, something that is the connected TV, something that you can
Yeah,
actually rely on, and doesn't necessarily mean you're going to deliver yourself, but you're surrounded and you're paying attention of the realms of each area and you figure out what are the opportunities. Again, to my earliest point about signals, I think is a key element is understand the various signals has happened in the marketplace. If you understand the signals, where the direction of everything is going, you actually better prepared. And the problem that I sort of write a lot on LinkedIn about the demise of the holdcos. And I keep saying all the time, it's sort of is not something just happened overnight. It was a combination of missing signals. And understanding that actually we didn't pay attention to consulting when it's growing. We didn't pay attention when the tech started to knock on the door. We didn't pay attention when private equity started buying agencies. We didn't pay attention when in-housing became a thing. We didn't pay attention when, is all MarTech of AI. So you have this kind of combination of missing lots of different signals. So
hmm
for me, orchestration, again, is a defense mechanism because it enables you to really figure out what other partners are doing. Are they doing things that we can actually evolve our own product, our own solution towards that space? Because I think it's important to really not only learn about, and I think that's one of the problems in most companies and agencies is that everybody sort of focus on just looking inwards instead of looking, okay, right,
Mm.
what does, if new change that happen in the market, what does it really matter to us? Can we change? Can we adapt? And I think the interesting side is the smaller you are, the more flexibility you have. Um, and I think that's why we're seeing these kind of smaller units actually become more agile because they can just make decisions on the fly. So actually,
Right.
let's try to do this. Let's try to do that. The bigger you are, more complex it becomes. But at the same time, I think most of these agencies or companies, they should have a team that basically brainstorms, sits outside, they have no accountability, but actually just pushing the narrative. How can
Mm.
we improve how we manage campaigns? How can we improve? How do we basically gather insights? Is there any better tools out there? Is there
Mm.
is should we change in terms of the way the type of people we recruit? Because right now we're moving to AI. I think some of the conversation I have with some of my CEOs, including tech and so on, is are we recruiting the right people? What kind of skill set should we recruit for going forward?
Mm.
The other question is how do we transition our current staff into this new world?
Mm.
We're going to need less people. Okay. And I think the other thing that actually, if you read that post that I wrote about, I think is interesting because we are seeing this kind of, you have this bell curve where the two sides are being hit. We have the younger people being hit, basically none of them actually struggling to get a job. Then you have the older people experience being let go. So you have this middle ground where I would say probably that between the 25 and 45-year-olds, where they actually the ones still carrying the torch for marketing.
Mm.
But then what I'm afraid of is what's going to happen in 10, 15 years ago, because we still need new batch of people coming in. If we
Right.
get less of those, who's going to be doing the campaigns 15 years down the line? I don't know. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. It's definitely an interesting time. I want to come back to that, but
Mm.
when it comes to the valuations, I think one of the concerns that I know has come up in my mind when it comes to deciding what we just build in house versus what we outsource or rely on partners for. What what are your thoughts on valuation at that point? Because I think a lot of companies, a lot of agencies will say, no, if we outsource all these different services, then we're not going to be, that's going to hurt us when we get valued on the market. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the clever thing about it is that as part of the orchestration model is the key component I've been writing all the time about this is you need to build the IP. You need to really figure out what kind of IP you build. Now, as you build those kind of partnerships, this orchestration model with other partners, you need to build something as part, not building, like I said, you need to create something that is an integrated model or solution. So one of the key things I say all the time, people need to move away from the agency play, we start building products. So as part of the orchestration model, you need to build some level products that helps you to basically position yourself in the market. That's got several benefits. One being, apart from you creating clarity regarding to what you're going to offer to a specific client, but at the same time give you a new revenue stream. And the other thing that, going back to your point in terms is building this type of ecosystem. For me, I find really, really interesting is I'm going to have a conversation with them quite soon, like Stagwell. Stagwell
Mm.
is an interesting, it's private equity backed, but I quite like that model. I think because they have like a really interesting model. They sort of broke it down into few areas that traditional agencies don't go to because they have the agency model, they have products. I think they have about 3 or 4 products, SaaS products, people, basic brands can buy. They have the operating system model that enables you to basically tap in and to
Mm.
scale depending on the needs. And they have this fourth element is about the VC model, where basically uh, they buy agencies, bring them to the system, scale them up, and then sell them three, 3 or 4 years down the line for 3 or 4x. It's quite interesting model. But to your point, Are they building IP? Yes, they are. They actually gain signal. The VC model is giving them signals of what the direction is. And on the back of that, they're linking back to products, they're building products, then optimizing the operating system. So it's really interesting with where we're going in terms of, to your point, is most valuations that people are talking to, yes, of course, they're looking for IP, but they're looking for how the system generates revenue,
Mm,
how there's consistent revenue. And if you build that kind of ecosystem where you get insights and you say, okay, right, this is a growing area. We need to build something in order to capture that. So it could be a mini product, you build something around it.
mm,
And you create that product and you really figure out, okay, right, this is really working. Maybe we need to create. So in my view, agencies build IP by moving into this kind of operating systems, into IP, into products, and
mm,
actually ecosystems. Because I think in the future where we're going is, I think everything will be around ecosystems. People start building connections where I think the blur line between in-housing and outside becomes smaller. But I think the two sides need to be ready for that encounter,
mm.
because right now there's a lot of people think about ecosystems, but I don't think we are ready. The other side of the agency, well, we haven't orchestrated ourselves in
Yeah.
order to interact with our world.
Mm.
Because I think it's going to be more agile as we go forward.
Yeah, yeah. Can you expand on that? Just like double click on it. Like what's an example someone might think of when it comes to like creating a product or an ecosystem? Either one of those examples. What's something that comes to mind that maybe agencies can think differently about the orchestration model around to really establish that kind of IP? How can they think about that more?
Yeah. For example, like a good example on that, I give you, because this kind of thinking is not something is new. Actually, back in my days at a WPP when I was at medical, and this guy was in charge then the planning and data. I was head of UK for planning and data, um, and social media was basically coming in. So even then, I was basically a bit of maverick, and I said, okay, right, I need to create a product. Most agencies was basically just taking the fees, running a social media listing project, doing some level of influencer. I was like, yeah, I want to get product. So I partnered with a vendor. It's like, actually, can I have a product? Can I use your tool, refigure it, add the
Mm,
few elements to it? Can I put my badge on top of it? And that becomes
mm,
mine.
mm,
So, and that became very successful. So we creating a product, actually created 3 products on the back of it that that service different types of clients. One basically for smaller clients, basically having huge amounts of budget was like basically the configuration was set for that type of client. We had like one for mid market, and we had for enterprise. The enterprise was flying through the world. We sold that to VW, we sold that for Audi. I think we sold that for Eon and so on. We sold that for loads of different projects. But again, is moving away to say actually just selling hours and selling projects is not enough. We really want to get some level of recurring revenue. So that's the product side. The ecosystem side of it is how you bring together all the various elements. In this case, for example, okay, right, I got social. How can I bring partnerships? How can I bring TV? How can I bring search and create something that
yeah.
together can help one client? So basically is we're taking the burden to explain, basically to have individual pitch conversation with the client. But when the client come to us, they know what they're buying. Similar to what most holdcos are doing now with Power of One in case of publicists. So
Mm,
basically, when they go in, it's like, okay, right, we have data, we have technology, we have production. Depending where you are, at what stage you are in, we can adjust based on your requirements. So that's the ecosystem, the
mm,
platform. The ecosystem is basically, okay, right, we have that. Now is a system that needs to interact not just internally for the client, but needs to interact with other systems,
yeah.
interacts with a Google ecosystem, interacts with an Amazon ecosystem, interacts with internal ecosystem from the client point of view. So is an agile, so it becomes a bigger part of something of loads of different partners that basically enables fluidity between the systems, meaning that you creating that kind of idea that we had a few years ago, the omni-channel, that becomes like, okay, right, it becomes a living organism that is basically independent of the players that are composed to it. So everyone is playing a role. So that's why probably in a way that orchestration plays a significant step on it, because someone needs to be in charge. A clear example of it is basically like a symphony. You need to have a maestro. That's your orchestrator. Then you have different people playing different instruments. But
Yeah.
what they're doing together, they're creating a symphony. So that's basically, if you want to get a description of an ecosystem, that's how I say it, is basically there'll be some guidance in terms of what kind of music they're going to play, but everybody needs to work together. Everybody knows their role, because they are not, they're part of something bigger. And this is how I see the ecosystem in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. The word that came to mind too when you were explaining the product side is almost like consolidation. It's almost like through consolidation of that orchestration, right?
Yeah.
You can have a much more singular IP.
Yeah, I think like an interesting thing about it, in most situations, I was having a conversation with another CEO last weekend, today actually. There's a lot of people that try to bulk everything together into part of one. And it's like I said, you, instead of bulking everything together, it's like you have like more than one product. You have 2 or 3 products. I just had a call today. It's like an hour with another US company that I'm advising. And it's like I said, hang on a second. I think you have 3 products in here. They're very distinct. You can have different ways to go to market. You have different value exchange with your customers, where basically you can do this for this client, you can do it for that one, and so on. But, oh yeah, no, we bulk everything together. So one of the key things from thinking from the product side is how to figure out breaking into parts. And sometimes those parts is what clients want. Sometimes they don't want a big thing. They just
Mhm.
want that piece. Sometimes, if you're thinking from the strategy point of view, could be clients just want a workshop.
Right.
Create the best workshop. That becomes a product where it enables you a workshop that leaves other clients they're looking for a short and fast track MVP process. You can create an MVP process. Or some clients are looking for retail integration. If you're building websites, like they're looking for functionality that enables to do that. So it's
Right.
creating those different things where you sort of cater to different people.
Yep.
For example, in the case of a social media, they try to do everything. Or companies in terms of websites, building websites, or being CRM, they're trying to do integration, because the way they view in the past is the more service we put together under one umbrella, the more we keep them. But
Mm.
it's not necessarily happens, because we've seen that most situations um, through the M&A point of view is we are very bad at integrating. We buy loads of businesses, we feel that add IP, add assets. But one thing that basically we struggle to do is to merge everything together. We struggle. I think similar to what's going on with IPG and Omnicom, I think this is going to happen. It's going to take them at least 5 to 6 years to get it right.
Mm.
Even that, I think, is going to be a struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me about the vertical integration side of things that you've
Yeah,
talked about.
yeah,
So and how it's a much smarter strategy versus the horizontal. If you were running like say a 30 person to 200 person company, which is most of our audience, mostly who I work
yeah.
with, um, what's like the simplest, most like achievable version of like vertical integration that they can actually execute? Can you explain maybe what that means and how they can execute
Yeah,
it?
I think it's quite interesting. I think is a good example that's happening right now. I think if you want to really understand is like Google. Google has just killed it with the vertical integration. So Google done something really, really interesting from the AI point of view versus any other shop. Google said actually, okay, right, how do we make money? So AI is the end product, right? It's like, okay, so we can actually right now let's break it down into 4 phases. So there's the first phase is basically chips. Can we actually build our own chips or design our own chips? Maybe. Right. So now they created the TPUs. Now, actually, funny enough, last week was announced that Facebook actually potentially is considering buying TPUs from NVIDIA.
Mm.
So that is coming. So they actually becoming the first stage. So what's the next step? Okay, we have that. Most of those TPUs or those chips need to sit somewhere in order to help to compute. So they need to be part of data centers. Should we have our own data centers? Yes. We have the cloud side as well. Yes, too. So they're making money from those two parts. Okay, the next thing, okay, what we need to be able to do is we need to have our own LLM. Okay, gonna build our own LLM. So another revenue stream. So the next, okay, what we need to do is integrate that as part of our rest of the business, our search business, our YouTube business, and so on. So to your example from the people, is just understand the value chain. Really understand in terms of if you are thinking about depending on the type of an agency, you can basically really figure out, okay, how can I create more? If someone comes to you and to do, okay, I want to run a social media campaign, for example, okay, right. Most situations you can figure out, okay, right, we can build a strategy, we can basically automate and so on. What about if basically you can take the photos, make it more because the client's going to be paying for those photos. You're taking the photos. Oh, by the way, if basically they are looking at, for example, building partnerships or trying to find influencers in order to promote, or maybe you can have that service. So what I was talking about from the vertical side of things, you're trying to, when the client comes to you, you're not asking for additional revenue. They already going to spend that money. So they want to say, spend money with us because we have, for that specific objective, we have other things you're going to need. Potential could be in the next, okay, right, they're going to pay for analytics because they're going to have an analytics solution. Okay, maybe you're going to have the vertical side. Okay, we're going to have the analytics. So what you're doing is making money out of the supply chain regarding to each process. You don't need to go the full on, but could be really figure out 2 steps before you, 2 steps after you, or 1 step before you, 1 step after you, and really figure out how can we have that conversation with clients, have that conversation they're going to go afterwards. If you can create a better solution versus what our horizontal strategy tends to be more, okay, let's get different things that they can work together. And the problem that with that is they need to look for new budgets. They need to go, need to convince someone, okay, need to unlock them. But if you're talking to someone that already has the budget, someone came to you, let's say, that's a clear example, World Cup next year. If someone comes to you, okay, let's say I want to build a website for the World Cup. So the other thing could be, okay, right, the other thing they need to promote it, right? So then they're going to do social media promotion. Oh, we can help you to set up those social media pages. Okay, within that, okay, they will need content. They need images. Oh, we can provide you the content. So you can actually provide within that space of things that you know they're going to need. They're going to pay someone else to do it. But if you can bring together as part of an integrated vertical element, very similar to Google.
Right.
In order for you to have LLMs or to have okay, we need to have in order to do AI properly, we need to have our LLMs. In order to do LLMs, we have our data needs to be sitting somewhere, it needs to be computed. We have our data centers. In order to do the data centers, we need potentially chips. Oh, we have that. So they're potentially right now the only few. I'm not sure if there's any company out there that has the all 4. They're actually making money at every single stage. For your agencies, help them to make money as part of the stages. Doesn't need to be crazy, but just start small. It's okay, right? 1 step before, 1 step after. Can I basically, because for example, one of the key things that people tend to do on the back of it is, for example, if they launch a campaign, is at some point they need to have some research to see if it didn't work. Why not offering your services? Sometimes there are simple solutions, just require some thinking, but that needs to be a very clear positioning. So you need to really, going back to my point, is you need to figure out, it's not trying to do everything for everybody. You just need to say, actually, this is going to be my focus.
Yeah.
Retail media will be my focus. E-commerce is going to be my focus. Or building websites will be my focus. And okay, right, how can I build a vertical solution and offer for people that come to us, and build okay, right, what are the things they all need? What are the things that potentially they can go elsewhere to get? Where, for example, one of the key things is basically People are looking for replatforming at some point. Can we offer that as part of our service later on? So basically, they'll at some point they will turn around. Could be one of the key things they're doing is like, they will need to have some CRM integration. Can we basically build some capabilities on that? Some potentially there will be some elements of SEO. There'll be
Right.
some elements of So there's a few things that as part of vertical integration could be interesting for people to explore.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I think people are always trying to figure out how to maximize or extract the most value out of a customer, and provide the most value.
Yeah.
But thinking about it in terms of the vertical, I think is a more simple way of doing that. That's easier than trying
Yeah,
to bolt on all these different, sub services, totally different
and
services.
communication point of view is easy as well because you're talking to the right person already. Because the
Right.
other thing, because you're already talking to the person that's gonna say yes. You
Yep.
don't need to be talking to different stakeholders because the problem is trying to sell different things. You need to go find sometimes different stakeholders that make decisions. So it then becomes really complex. But if you do vertical to the same stakeholder, by the way, we can also do this. We also can do that. We also offer that. You say,
Mm.
oh, great. So easy because you actually are unlocking a budget, something that he controls,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that basically is he sees the value because you're talking to the person that actually having CRM makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually having an integration with Salesforce makes sense because I
Yeah.
want to check. Have an integration of a social media platform that looks into social and in terms of content, or a CMS that feeds in some makes sense. Or having some capabilities, having like a webinar solution on my website makes sense. So you are talking to someone that actually is trying to achieve a goal. And you just provide them with the right tools to achieve that.
Right. Right. Make them the hero.
Yes,
On that
and
same,
actually, yeah.
go ahead.
On that note, actually, for marketers, if I would say lesson number one and probably the most important thing, and I think I learned this through my 20 years experience, is the key thing that you need to focus on is with any stakeholder is trying to figure out, to your point, um, the question is how you make your work that you produce help your client get promoted. So
Hmm.
that's if you use that as a KPI, say, how can we help you? And you basically the key question is for your listeners as well. It's like be very direct with the clients. Okay, how can I
Right.
help you get promoted? And actually, I had that, and then I've done
Mm.
that, and I help clients get promoted in the past. And it's very, very honest because you have two things. You have the things, what are the priorities and what matters. You
Yeah.
get very good clarity because sometimes we think we go into the remote, do this, do that, and so on. This matters. But if you go and say, okay, right, my role next year is to help you get promoted. How can I help you? What do you need from me? And they will tell you. And they
Yeah.
basically,
Smart.
again, simple.
It helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have them on your team and they know you're on their team, I mean, that just creates relationships are everything.
Yeah.
So I love it, man. I love it. Ivan, thank you so much. Let's end on that. That was such a great piece there. And yeah, thanks again for sharing all the insights, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Pixel Perfect podcast, where we go down the rabbit hole on the journey and motivations of creatives and entrepreneurs. Stay tuned for more stories to come. Until next time.